You know, something really shocking happened to me a few years ago. 7 years ago, to be precise. I woke up in the morning, I looked in the mirror, and I was shocked to see a 50-year-old man staring back at me. How could I, youthful, vibrant me, be as ancient as 50? And then I thought about all of my friends, my relatives, my colleagues, my associates, and they were also suffering the same sort of mirror shock. And I investigated this. And I came across this: population aging is unprecedented. A process without parallel in the history of humanity. Pretty strong words, yeah? And this comes from the United Nations. A process without parallel in the history of humanity. Now this certainly provoked my interest, so I investigated a little more. Looking a little closer to home, in Asia Pacific, we've got the oldest, we've got the largest, and we've got the fastest aging populations on the planet. Oldest Japan, largest China, and the fastest, of course, China, Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Singapore. And then I wondered, what are the business implications of all of this? And not surprisingly, all of the global business consultancies have approached the subject. Accenture says that between 2009 and 2030, Americans 65 and older will see their power as consumers grow more dramatically than that of other age groups. Boston Consulting Group, Germany and Japan and the US, the 55-plus group will contribute over half the increase in spending up until 2030. 340 million. That's the population of people over the age of 60 in China in the year 2030. Now, to put it in perspective, that's 50 million more people than the entire population of the United States of America in that same year. That's a lot of people. MasterCard Asia Pacific predicts that in 3 years from now, people across Asia Pacific will have, 65 plus, will have $2 trillion US of spending per year. Now, I don't have $2 trillion in my pocket, but I have worked my butt off for the last 30 years. My kids are almost off my hands, and now I want to enjoy life a bit more. So my question to all of you gathered here today: do you want my money? Because if you do, you're going to have to earn it. And to earn it, you have to begin by understanding a little bit about what goes on with aging. And the first thing you have to learn is we're not all the same as each other. Older people are just as different and unique and individual. We don't suddenly homogenize when we become 50. And we're different in so many different ways. But there is one thing that unites us all. We are all aging physiologically. Our bodies are getting older. Different stages, different pace, but always in the same direction. And these effects are relentless, they're universal, and in most part, they're irreversible. Universal and irreversible. In my case, I think it was the competition squash I used to play that now plays up on my knees, and also the early morning piano practice with freezing cold fingers that probably explains why I have a touch of arthritis in the top joints of my fingers. But don't call me old, because I'm in total denial. And if you call me old, I'll take great delight in showing you one of the top joints of my finger. What I'm asking you today is to become age-friendly. The world has taken on eco-friendliness, now it's time to become age-friendly. Now, I'm not talking about bright lights, huge signs, get rid of all steps. No. My definition of age-friendly is where the unique physical needs of older people are satisfied in a way that's natural and beneficial for all ages. If you design for the young, you will exclude the old. If you design for the old, you'll include everybody. And to me, that makes a lot of sense. Let me tell you some of the things that are going to happen to me in the next few years. 50% of people over the age of 60 claim that they cannot read product labels or packaging with their reading glasses on. In the United States, 1/3 of people over the age of 65 complain of hearing loss. Half of people in the United States over 65 report some complaint with arthritis. What tasted great when you were 25 tastes a lot different when you're 65, because the taste buds diminish in size and they begin to die off at around 50. And perhaps the most important of all, cognitive skills change. Some for the better, but some, like for example cognitive filtering, get a little worse. And there's something else as well. And the list goes on. Our bodies become less flexible. Our muscle mass and our strength declines. And so on. And you know, some of these things are going to influence the places where we live and the places where we work. But they are definitely going to have an impact as the world ages. Some of them have extraordinary consequences. There are also tragic consequences for people who don't understand aging. 20 people died in a boat accident in New York Lake a few years ago because the regulations had not changed to accommodate the lack of flexibility older people had and their obesity, meaning they couldn't get the life jackets out and put them on in time, and they drowned. Another example, 10 people died of hypothermia in Japan, trekkers. Why? Because the tour operator didn't realise that older people are more sensitive to the cold. So my appeal to you is to become age-friendly. Now, companies and governments that we speak to on a day-to-day basis, they all seem to get it. They know about the ageing issue, but their question is always, where do I begin? How do I start on this journey of age-friendliness? And it was because of this precise question that my colleague and I invented a new process called the Age-Friendly Audit Tool. Conceptually, it's very simple. Basically, we divide up the key physiological effects of aging. There are 25 of them, divided into sensory effects, physical effects and cognitive effects, and then we apply those effects to a journey undertaken by a human being. That might be the journey that a patient makes, or the journey that an employee makes, or in this case, today, we're talking about the journey a consumer makes. And that journey usually begins with communications. It then goes to an online experience, to the retail, the product or service, and then the sales support. Along that journey, at the moment, there are about 200 steps, individual steps along that journey. So what we have to do is map those 25 physiological effects of aging, the ones that are most likely to have a bearing or influence on human behaviour, at each of the 200 steps. So it's not so simple anymore. So this iPad app basically disguises a lot of the complexity that goes on in the process of managing or auditing the age-friendliness of an operation. And what we basically do is go through the sequence of 200 tests or questions and score each one of them on a 1 to 5 basis using the iPad. Each time a score is entered, it's automatically uploaded to the cloud, and then using a cloud-based engine, we can analyse the results, we can manage the results, and we can output the reports. What do we get out of it? Well, in this case, we can see that phone sales were inaccurate when everything else was working in favour. We can see that direct mail, the colour contrast being used, and the response mechanism were unnecessarily complex. In this example for a hotel, we can see that the online and the product, or the room in this case, was letting down the whole score. Let it be made official here and now. Ladies and gentlemen, human beings, normal human beings, do not wear reading glasses when they are in the shower. Please save us from putting body lotion in our hair. Now, I know what you're thinking. I want to transform this whole world into something that's really dumbed down for very old people. No, it's not. A brand does not have to lose its super coolness just because it's age friendly. And I want to prove it to you by talking about an example we did using the Apple iPad. We looked at the journey from communications to online retail product and sales support, both in Singapore and in London. And you might be surprised by the score. This is the best out of 5, right? Communications. Think about Apple's communications. There is no device that they use that causes you to feel excluded. Everybody's included in the communications. You go online, it's very clean and clear. There are no flashy animated menus. A large use of videos, which are great for older people to control the flow of information. The product, famous for its intuitiveness and simple design. The retail environment, bright, easy to access. And the phone sales in this case, or the phone support in this case, was excellent both in the UK and in Singapore. So it can be done. So the question is, if Apple can do it, why can't hotels? Why can't destinations? Why can't airlines, banks, fast-moving consumer product companies? Why can't they? Now, I began this talk by explaining the horror of waking up to finding a 50-year-old man. There's another horror. I've got another 30 years to go. So I'm asking you, when this man becomes like this man, will you still want my money? Will you still be trying to get my money by being age-friendly? So in a world that is aging, being age-friendly is simply good business. I'll leave you with a question. Is your business age-friendly? Thank you.